What is the certification, the ethics requirements, those types of things?
Good question. Good question. There are so many different certifying agencies. I'm a member of the American Society of Appraisers. They have their own certification process. There's NACVA, National Association of Certified Valuation Analysts, 3 or 4 major ones, and they each have their own certification. I've chosen to not get those certifications for this specific reason. The overall arching standard is USPAP, Uniform Standards of Professional Appraisal Practice. That was adopted by Congress, I think in 1970. And every valuation that you do has to conform to that standard. And I'm USPAP certified, and all my valuations fit that standard. Secondly, the best proof that what you do meets the standard is if there is an opposing valuation specialist on the other side and they do a rebuttal on your own valuation. So essentially, a certification through ASA or NACPA or anybody else would be redundant, surplus to requirements, because as long as everything I do fits within USPAP standards, and there's another standard called IRS Ruling 5960, those 2 standards essentially what you have to meet to be able to have your evaluation pass mustered. It's very possible, and I've had this also happen in court, where I've gone against an expert who has taken one of the other certifications, but the valuation itself does not meet USPAP standards, which again is completely a demerit on his part, or on their part. Yes, Sierra.
One, I'd like to remind all tiny business owners to save for retirement because your business may not be it. The other thing is, when you're assessing the value of a business, how far ahead do you look, or do you look at what the income for the business may be year over year?
What a great question. And this one has come up a lot, particularly with a business that's relatively new. Remember, I talked about several different valuation methods. One of the valuation methods that I almost always apply is called the discounted cash flow approach. With the discounted cash flow approach, you project forward anywhere from 2 to 5 years. Beyond 5 years, then it starts getting kind of tricky. But in a 2 to 5 year period, particularly, let's say the base year was 2020, when we're in the middle of COVID, right? Most people's financials were like this and then dipped 2020, but they're now on the way back up. It would be disingenuous for me to base an analysis on the low year. So you have to look forward, projecting, using rational or defendable projection analysis to know what the future cash flows are in the business. Then you discount those future cash flows to a present day value. Again, it's always, let's say it's something where you are, it's a relatively new business. To just use a loose example, let's say there's a business right now that has 0 revenue, but you have 100% of, or let's say you just signed a 10-year contract with the government, it's not going anywhere, you're going to be generating $5 million a year in revenue for the next 5 years. Even though today there is no revenue, you can't base it on just what it looks like today. You have to look forward, and looking forward takes into account what the future cash flows are going to be as determined by the projections that you're able to create.